All right, so after the A's just got swept again, they have an 11-game losing streak. They are historically bad. I do think that the MLB, with possibly this vote by the owners coming in mid-June, might try and fast track the A's move to Las Vegas, because at this point, the idea, I know the lease and the original timeline we were talking about was that the A's would stay at the Coliseum this year, obviously, and next year with the lease coming up in 2024. They would then transition into the AAA Las Vegas brand new ballpark for 2 seasons that has a capacity of 10,000, but I would imagine maybe they could do some type of expansion seating to get it to 12,000. The kind of ridiculous thing is right now, the Oakland Athletics at the Coliseum are averaging under 10,000 and normally draw like 3,000 for each game. So if they did move, the capacity of the AAA ballpark would really not be a concern, considering how bad the attendance is at the Coliseum. And it is understandable. Oakland fans are just sick of it. The team's been tanked. We've been over it 1,000 times. But could the original timeline be adjusted? Could they say, we don't care that you have another year at the Coliseum, according to the lease? Do the A's have to move immediately because it is such a bad environment? I was just thinking about it. To me, it just does not make sense based on how bad they are right now for them to spend yet another year at the Coliseum tanking. And the problem that is being created now, Oakland is basically giving teams free wins, because this is not an MLB level team, and you've got a team like Houston who got off to a little bit of a slow start. They just had like 2 straight series against the A's. They swept them both times, and they're kind of running up their win total. The MLB got very lucky that they changed the scheduling to where you're not facing teams in your division 19 times. Otherwise, those AL West teams would just have a ridiculous advantage over everyone else, getting to face the A's 19 times. You're looking at a 16-3, 17-2 type record pretty much given to you because of how bad this A's team is. But I do think the MLB looks at this Oakland situation, sees it as embarrassing for the league, and that may entice them to try and fast track the situation. Say, we don't care if you have 1 more year according to the lease at the Coliseum. You need to get out of there ASAP. If they do vote on the relocation in June, could we also see a resolution when it comes to the A's future around there? I think it's very likely. It's all going to come out. We already got the stadium renderings. A lot of people are kind of weirded out by those. It is going to be a retractable roof with a massive overhang. And I do think the stadium does need to be reconfigured, at least the outfield seating, in my opinion. But we did get the renderings, so that is a big deal when it comes to this project. They are really looking to move it forward. And I do think it is more likely, or maybe just as likely at this point, because of how bad the situation is in Oakland, the MLB could say this is so uncompetitive, we're just going to say, you go to the AAA ballpark immediately. It sucks you have to play 3 straight years at the AAA park, but it's not the worst situation. This is still a brand new AAA, really, really nice, good suites. The reality of it, even though the capacity is just 10,000, the A's aren't even drawing 10,000 per game. So they might actually improve their attendance by going to a minor league stadium that has the capacity of 10,000. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it's gotten. There is the idea that if this does get approved in June, they would just send them straight to the AAA park starting next year. They would have an announcement in June. There's also the idea maybe they play at Oracle Park and split time with San Francisco. I don't see that as really a viable option. I mean, I guess Oracle Park is beautiful, but is that a good organic situation? Maybe in an emergency, you could theoretically make it work. You could have San Francisco play their home games when Oakland is on the road, and then Oakland play their home games when San Fran is on the road. But it just doesn't seem that viable that San Francisco would want to do that. They would want to share their stadium with Oakland when Oakland is terrible and have to deal with that. It seems much more likely to me they would just straight in 2024 send them to the AAA park, and the announcement would have to come really soon because you'd have to plan for that. But I do think that is becoming more and more possible because I just can't see the MLB justifying, with what's going on this year, playing another season at the Coliseum with how bad and embarrassing this has gotten. If you move them to the AAA park, at least there's a little bit of energy. It is a relocation. It is a beautiful park. It is an upgrade over the Coliseum. There's a few major problems, the biggest right now being, this is a de facto lame duck team. That's what this is. The Oakland Athletics are a lame duck team. Everyone knows they're trying to move. They tanked their team to move, so there is no fan interest. And then on top of that, they're playing at the worst stadium in Major League Baseball. There are ways to solve this. If you move them a year early, there's going to be new energy in Vegas, and the stadium is brand new. Even though it is minor league, the altitude problem is going to be an issue. It's going to be the second most in terms of how high they are above sea level. I believe it's 3,000 feet at that AAA stadium in Las Vegas ballpark. Coors Field, for example, is about 5,000, so it would be a nice hitter's park for sure, but I think the sacrifice is needed with how bad the situation currently is going on in Oakland, because there's just no motivation for Oakland to get any better. And if you're saying, oh yeah, next year as well, you're going to be playing at the Coliseum, I understand based off of the lease, that was the timeline I was originally going with. Oakland would be there next year as well. The lease expires. They move to the AAA ballpark for 2 seasons, but now I'm starting to second guess it just because of how bad the situation is in Oakland. We're talking about a historically bad team possibly losing well over 120 games, and it looks like it's headed that way. So we'll have to see how this whole process plays out. There is a big motivation, I'm sure, to get this done and get the team scheduled and ready to move into, I'm guessing, Las Vegas's AAA park for 2 or maybe 3 years. Just because of how bad the situation is, there's no point in them spending yet another lame duck year in Oakland with very minimal support. John Fisher has no incentive to spend any. Well, you know what? Maybe they will force John Fisher to spend money next year in Oakland, but it just doesn't make sense to me. You're much better off just going to that minor league park, spending money there. I know how bad it sounds. It does sound bad, and it is bad. They purposefully wanted to move the team. I do think this is a situation where the MLB says, this is an emergency. We've got to get this team moved because it is uncompetitive and it's a terrible look for our sport. And we're not going to put up with another year of this situation. This issue is mainly a John Fisher problem. This whole thing started back in the 2000s. Really, the whole situation started with Mount Davis going up, if we're going to be honest. That's when the stadium became completely obsolete for baseball, when they built Mount Davis, and then it's been kind of a tailspin. Even when I'll give A's fans credit, when they were good back in 2013, their attendance did uptick a little bit, but it was still not great. And I think John Fisher realized based on the market, no matter how good the Athletics are, they're always going to be capped. I will say, Oakland is not a small city, and when you look at the overall numbers in terms of the metro, it is kind of like a better population than Las Vegas. The problem is, to me, they lose a lot of those fans and a lot of the energy to the San Francisco Giants. So we'll have to see what ends up happening, but this is not good, and I do think this is kind of an emergency. The MLB says, look, I know the lease is up in 2024. You're not going to make it. This is it for the Coliseum. This is the last year. I'm guessing probably in June they could come out and say the owners have voted, the move is happening, and it is done. We are leaving Oakland at the end of this year. In 2024, they will be playing. I would say, very likely at the AAA park. Maybe you could say they play at Oracle and then move to the AAA park, but I really wouldn't see the purpose in that. But I could see the MLB really trying to fast track this based on how horrible the A's situation currently is and how uncompetitive it is and how bad the attendance is. They don't want any part of this. They cannot let this happen for another year where this team loses another 120, 130 games. Guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.